He said it like it was a rule carved into the ice itself. We don't patrol at night. At first, I thought he was joking. Just another veteran ranger superstition. But the look on his face told me otherwise. His eyes weren't scared. They were hollow, like he'd seen something that stripped the word fear of all meaning. You've got to understand something. These men aren't rookies. Alaska's wilderness doesn't forgive mistakes, and they know it better than anyone. They face blizzards that can freeze steel, darkness that lasts for days, and predators that stalk without sound. But even with all that, they say the real danger doesn't come from nature. It comes when the sun goes down. So when a seasoned U.S. Ranger refuses to step outside after dark, not because of the cold, not because of the bears, but because of something else entirely, you start to wonder what he saw. And tonight, you're going to find out. We don't patrol at night. Before you judge what that ranger said, you need to understand the kind of men who wear that badge up north. The Alaska Rangers aren't your usual park patrol. They're survivalists in uniform. Law enforcement, search and rescue, wilderness medics, and weather experts all rolled into one. Their patrol routes cut through thousands of frozen miles, places so remote you can go a full week without seeing another living person. These aren't guys who get scared easily. They navigate avalanches, thin ice, and zero visibility storms. They know the sound of every animal that moves in those woods. They can read snow like a map. When one of them says there's something out there worth fearing, the rest of the force listens. And the man who made that confession, Ranger Paul Matthews, was one of the most respected among them. 21 years of service, never lost a hiker, never called off a mission. Until that winter night in 2017, when he returned from patrol, alone, shaking, and refusing to leave his cabin once the sun went down. He didn't file an official report. He didn't talk to the press. But a week later, someone recorded him. What he said in that recording has since been buried under layers of departmental silence. But a copy of it, a short, corrupted piece of audio, was leaked. And on it, you can hear a man breaking as he describes what happened when the darkness moved closer than it should have. I told them, we don't patrol at night. The confession you're about to hear wasn't meant for the public. It was recorded for internal training purposes. That's what the file description said. A 14-minute audio entry labeled only by date, February 23rd, 2017. No name, no location tag, just that. The clip was never broadcast, never logged officially, but according to the ranger who leaked it, this was the night Paul Matthews came back from his final patrol and demanded they shut down all nighttime routes along the Yukon sector. At first, his colleagues thought he'd gone into shock, frostbite, exhaustion, maybe even early hypothermia. But the medical report showed no trace of that. No injury, no confusion, just fear. They said he refused to talk for 2 days. Then, without warning, he walked into the outpost's communications room, asked someone to turn on the recorder, and began to speak. No questions were asked, no one interrupted, and when the recording was played back later, most of the room went silent. Officially, that tape was marked archived psychological debriefing. Unofficially, it vanished. But a single backup copy, corrupted and full of static, somehow made its way online years later. Just fragments. You can hear Paul's breathing. You can hear the snowstorm outside. And between bursts of static, His voice, trembling but clear enough to make out one line. Something followed me out there, and it's not done with me yet. No one ever fractive. No one ever found the full tape. But the fragments we do have are enough to piece together what happened that night. And it starts with his last scheduled patrol, a routine snowmobile check along a frozen stretch of the Yukon River. The Yukon sector in winter doesn't look real. It's the kind of cold that steals sound, where even your thoughts seem to echo. Ranger Paul Matthews began his patrol at 6:10 p.m. The sky already black, the moon just a sliver behind heavy clouds. The temperature that night? -34 degrees. That kind of cold freezes your eyelashes together when you blink. His route was simple. 20 miles upriver, check 2 remote cabins, then return before midnight. He'd done it a dozen times before. Nothing ever happened. He carried a flare gun, a sidearm, a radio, and a snowmobile pack with emergency rations. The first 5 miles were uneventful. The familiar crunch of snow under the treads, the low hum of the motor, and the occasional flicker of his headlamp against the trees. But the further he went, the quieter it got. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. Like the world had gone on pause. Even the usual forest noises, the creak of ice, the groan of the river, had stopped. At around mile 8, the landscape flattened out into an open stretch of tundra. Miles of untouched snow, perfect, unbroken. That's when he noticed something odd. A single dark line cutting across the snow about 100 yards ahead. At first he thought it was a shadow, but as he got closer, he saw it wasn't. It was a trail. Something had crossed the ice, something heavy. The line curved slightly, like whatever made it was dragging something behind it. And that was when, according to his confession, he first started to feel watched. He couldn't see anything. No trees nearby, no movement, just that dark mark cutting through a perfect white world. He didn't turn back, not yet. Paul slowed the snowmobile to a crawl. The trail he'd seen ahead wasn't fading, it was fresh. The edges were still crisp, not softened by wind. He leaned forward, squinting against the glare of his headlamp. The line wasn't a drag mark anymore. It had split into 2. Footprints, human. But no one else was supposed to be out there. He stopped the engine, and for the first time, the silence hit him. No motor, no wind, just that hollow stillness pressing against his ears. He stepped off the snowmobile and crouched down. The prints were wide apart, too wide for a walk. Whoever made them was either running or moving fast. They led straight toward the tree line, then vanished into the dark. Paul keyed his radio. Static. No voice, just the soft hiss of interference. He tried again. Base, this is Ranger Matthews. Do we have anyone in Sector C tonight? He waited, listening, the mic trembling in his glove. That's when he heard it, faint, somewhere behind him. A second crunch. Snow compacting under weight. He turned his light back across the tundra. Nothing but his own tracks. The same empty field. But when he looked down again, there was a third set of prints now, beside his own, close enough that if he'd taken one more step, whoever it was would have been standing right next to him. Paul wrote later that he felt the air change, like the cold itself got thicker, heavier. He didn't hear breathing. He didn't see movement. Just that third set of prints, appearing in real time, one after another, heading into the trees. That's when he decided to follow them. Paul followed the prints into the tree line. His headlamp swept across the snow, every breath fogging in front of him, slow and heavy. The forest here was dense, branches weighed down with frost, the kind that snaps like glass when it breaks. The prints continued straight, same wide stride, same depth. But what unnerved him most was how clean they were. No drag, no uneven weight. Whatever made them was moving smooth, deliberate, almost careful. At about 30 yards in, the trees opened into a small clearing. The moonlight broke through just enough to paint the snow in dull silver. That's when Paul saw it. A second trail crossing the first, running in the opposite direction. The two sets met in the center of the clearing, then both stopped, just ended. No scuffle, no signs of struggle. Nothing but smooth, untouched snow from that point onward. He crouched down and brushed the surface with his glove, still solid, no collapse, no hidden layer underneath. But the snow there felt warm. Not melting warm, but like something had just been there, radiating faint heat. He checked his thermometer. The air temperature was still dropping, -38. No explanation. Paul raised his flashlight toward the tree line again, and that's when he saw the marks. Deep grooves carved into the bark, spaced evenly, running 5 feet high up the trunk. Not claw marks, not tool marks, more like something had pressed into the wood with immense weight. He took a step closer, and the radio on his shoulder crackled to life. "Base to Ranger Matthews, copy?" He froze. He hadn't called in again. The voice repeated, this time distorted. "Base to Ranger Matthews," only it wasn't the dispatcher's voice. It was his. The transmission was repeating his own words from earlier. The same inflection, same pauses. But he hadn't keyed the mic. He reached for the radio, confused, and the forest went dead silent. That's when something, a low vibration, moved through the ground beneath him. Not sound, not footsteps, more like breathing. Paul backed away, one step. When the light died, Paul's world collapsed into black. The only sound left was the wind, or what he thought was wind. He tried to restart the flashlight. Nothing. He reached for the flare gun on his belt, but his gloves were stiff with frost. The vibration under his boots came again, stronger this time, rhythmic, like something pacing in a wide circle around him. Then he heard it, a low creak, almost a whisper, to his left. Something brushing against bark, slow, careful. He turned toward the sound and saw, for just a heartbeat, movement between the trees. Not a shadow, not an animal. Something standing, tall, angular, its outline shifting like heat haze. It moved without noise, but every time it did, the air itself seemed to groan. Paul fired the flare. The light tore through the clearing, a burst of red and orange that painted everything in firelight. For less than 2 seconds, the forest glowed, and that's when he saw them. Not one, 3. They were standing in a half circle, just beyond the reach of the flare's glow. Still, watching. He couldn't make out faces, just the shapes. Thin, long-limbed, their skin reflecting light like wet glass. The flare hissed out. Everything went black again. The radio crackled, louder now, And through the static, he heard his own voice whisper back, "We don't patrol at night." Then, breathing. Close. So close he swore he felt the warmth of it against his neck. Paul ran. He didn't think, didn't look back. He sprinted through the dark, crashing through branches, following the memory of his own tracks back toward the snowmobile. The forest seemed endless, the same tree, the same shadows, over and over. He said later that the sound followed him. Not footsteps, not movement, but a dragging, like something being pulled through snow. His radio was still live, catching every breath, every shout, until the final. The rescue team found Ranger Paul Matthews just after sunrise. Temperature -36, wind chill -50. His snowmobile was still running, half buried in drifted snow, the engine idling rough but alive. The tracks around it were shallow, scattered, like he'd circled the area before collapsing. The strange part, his boots were placed neatly beside the machine, not thrown, not lost, placed. Investigators said his body showed no signs of hypothermia, no frostbite, no struggle. His pulse watch showed a steady heart rate right up until 3:27 a.m. Then it flatlined instantly. No drop, no warning, just off. They checked the radio logs. His last transmission, the one recorded at 2:43 a.m., contained something that couldn't be explained. It wasn't a message, it was a replay. His own earlier call was broadcast again. Identical waveform, identical pauses, only no one at base replayed it. It came through automatically. Twice. When the dispatch team tried to reach him, they said the mic keyed itself. Base to Ranger Matthews, copy? A long pause, then a whisper, almost too soft to hear. Don't patrol at night. The coroner's report listed cardiac arrest, cause unknown. But the senior officer who filed the report, Captain Lang, added something unusual in his written notes. A line that was later redacted in the public release. It read, "Subject's eyes were open. Pupils dilated. Expression indicates extreme fear. No defensive injuries. No signs of external trauma. Boots arranged with intent. Recommend immediate suspension of all nocturnal patrols in the Brooks Range sector until further evaluation." And that's exactly what happened. Since 1998, no ranger in that division has conducted a solo patrol after dark. Unofficially, the men and women stationed there call it the silent rule. They don't talk about it to outsiders. They don't document it in training manuals. But every rookie hears it their first week on the job. If you're out there after sunset, every now and then, a story like this slips through the cracks. Too strange for science, too quiet for headlines. And maybe that's why it haunts people more than anything caught on camera. Because when something can't be explained, it doesn't just vanish, it lingers. Rangers across Alaska have their own versions. Voices over dead radios, flares that don't light, tracks that start and stop mid-snow. None of it ends up in official records, but it spreads, passed from shift to shift, whispered at the edge of firelight. Could it be exhaustion? Extreme cold causing auditory hallucinations? Science says yes. Hypothermia can mimic fear. The brain starves for warmth, for oxygen, and fills in what it can't process. But here's where the logic thins. Matthews's vitals didn't show the pattern of hypothermia. His body temperature was stable until his heart stopped, instantly. No panic spike, no signs of freezing or fight, just silence. So maybe it wasn't what he saw that killed him. Maybe it was what he understood. In that frozen clearing, alone in a place where the rules of sound and shadow change, he realized something most of us never do. That the wild doesn't care what you believe in. It doesn't care if you're armed, trained, or rational. It doesn't even care if you're right. Sometimes the land simply looks back. And maybe that's what "we don't patrol at night" really means. Not a rule, not superstition. A warning, carved from experience, whispered by those who learned too late that not everything in the dark wants to be found. The official report called it exposure. The locals called it something older. But for the rangers who still work those frozen miles, it's not a story, it's protocol. They don't patrol at night. And if you ever find yourself out there, miles from light, and the forest goes quiet all at once, remember what they said. Don't call for help. Don't turn on your radio. Just keep walking. And hope the dark doesn't answer back. If you've ever heard a story like this, one that didn't make the news but stuck in your mind, tell me. Because sometimes the scariest truths are the ones only whispered between those who saw them. I'm Ranger Kenny, and this was We Don't Patrol at Night. Stay curious, stay careful, and I'll see you in the next one.